Hello, everyone. Congressman John Delaney here. Thanks for tuning in. It's been about 10 days since we launched our presidential campaign, and it's going great. We really appreciate all the positive feedback and all the suggestions and all the offers of support and help. But what I'm particularly pleased about is that people are actually focusing in on my vision and my approach and my plan for our country. And what they're realizing is that I bring a very strong social justice orientation to this work, but I also bring a focus on our economy and on growing our economy and creating jobs. And that's kind of the business person in me. And the social justice agenda is really the progressive in me. And what I think people are realizing is that I'm a different type of Democrat. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about here today, which is how I kind of think about policy and really what makes me different than what you hear from probably so many other Democrats, so many other great Democrats that you interact with. The first thing is I really care about our economy, right? And I think if you care about jobs and if you care about workers, you have to care about business, and you have to be a big supporter of the private economy. You have to be both pro-worker and pro-business, and that's clearly what I bring to the table. And one of the things I'm really focused on is trying to take capitalism, which I do believe in, but making it more just and inclusive so that more citizens are brought along with the tremendous progress in innovation and growth that's driven by capitalism. And that should be our shared goal as a country, which is to make sure our private economy is growing and innovating and creating jobs, but also making sure or ensuring that the benefits of that capitalism, if you will, are more broadly shared in our society. And I've got some good ideas how to do that, which I'll be talking to you about in the future. The other thing I really care about is making sure the United States is engaged globally, right? It's incredibly important that the United States reassert its leadership position around the world. The world is interconnected incredibly these days, as we all know. And if we want to combat some of the biggest issues we have, whether it be terrorism, whether it be climate change, whether it be nuclear proliferation, you really need an engaged United States of America, both from a national security perspective, a geopolitical perspective, but also from an economic perspective, because that's good for our economy, it's good for our workers, and it gives us really a say in how things unfold around the world, which is obviously incredibly important to us. So I care a lot about global engagements. I also talk a lot about what I call a new social contract, because when I think about the future, when I think about how the world is changing because of technological innovation, automation, robotics, global interconnections, all these incredibly powerful forces in the world, which I spend a lot of time thinking about, I spend a lot of time focusing on, and they really inform my public policy. I think two things. One, we need to make this country more entrepreneurial, right, so we can be nimble and flexible in this new world. But also, it's incredibly important that we make sure our citizens are prepared for the world and how it will change. So in many ways, we need a new social contract. In other words, we need to prepare our citizens better, right? We need to change how we educate them, right? The K through 12 educational pathway needs to be expanded. Every kid should be starting at pre-K. They should have free community college or something after that. Everyone should have health care. Everyone should have portable retirement benefits. I want to do the kind of things to make Americans feel more secure in their lives so that they can engage more successfully in a world and economy that's changing. So a new social contract is a big theme of mine. The other thing I believe, and this is probably the business person in me, someone who spent his whole career investing in small to mid-sized businesses and lending money to them so that they could grow, that if you really want to make change in society, if you really want to make progress, you need to make a transformational investment. And part of my campaign is going to be talking about the multi-trillion-dollar investment campaign between infrastructure and other things that we need to do in our country, particularly for communities that have really been disrupted by a lot of change that occurs. So I'm a big advocate of very significant investment. It should come from the government, but it also should come from the private sector. And they should be coordinating those resources so we get the highest return on those investments and so that we make the most progress, because that's really what matters, that progress really does require someone to make a transformational investment. I care a lot about passing along a stronger and better future. Right, we have an obligation to the next generation, or for generations to come, if you will, to leave the world a better place. And there's two dimensions to that. One, there's a fiscal dimension where you do look at what's going on in Washington. If you look at the deficits and the debt that we're incurring, we're really leaving our children, our grandchildren, a very significant fiscal debt that they're going to have to deal with. And it's going to be painful for them. And I think that's not right, and we need to be taking tangible steps. And we also have to leave them a better world environmentally. It's just like our fiscal debt, we're really leaving the next generation an environmental debt, and which is why I become such a big advocate for climate change. You can actually quantify the fiscal debt and environmental debt we're leaving the next generation. And I think that's immoral. So I'm very much focused on doing the smart, responsible things that a good steward would do, right? We're a steward of our nation, we're a steward of the economy, and we're a steward of our environment. And we need to make sure we're passing on a stronger and better future for all of our citizens. And then finally, I work in a bipartisan way. I was ranked one of the most bipartisan members of Congress. I respect public service immensely, which is why I try to conduct myself in a civil and respectful manner. And if you look at how our government was designed, it was really designed so that if we wanted to do things big, kind of transformational things, the kind of things we used to do in this country to make our country and the world a better place, we would do it on a bipartisan basis. That's the only way to get big things done, and it's the only way to ensure that when things do get done, they live a healthy life. So among various Democrats you'll rarely see anyone who brings as much civility and a sense for bipartisanship to the job. Not that I compromise my values in achieving those objectives, but that I respect the privilege, which is really how I think of it, of public service, and really will work hard to be civil and respectful and constructive and try to get things done for our citizens or for our country. And I think that's what kind of people want us to do. So these are the things I care about. These are why, in many ways, I'm a different kind of Democrat. I focus on the economy. I focus on jobs. I focus on growth. I believe in capitalism, but I think it should be more inclusive. I think our citizens need a new social contract so they can engage successfully in the world. I think we need to be engaging in the world, right, so that we have security as a people, so that we're safe, and that so we can bring about change to other parts of the world that aren't as really, quite frankly, as blessed as we are. I think we need to make kind of transformational investments in our communities, because we're not going to get the kind of progress we need unless we make these investments. We do have to be stewards of our fiscal situation and our environmental situation, which is why I believe we should be passing along a stronger and better future. And finally, to make all these things happen, to do it the right way, right? To do it the way we've done it historically, so that we make progress and we can do big things and they endure and they last. I want to work on a bipartisan basis. So these are some of the things that I think make me a different kind of Democrat. But you know, in the next months and year, we'll be going into a lot more details on these. But this is kind of a preview. So thanks for tuning in.